Okay, shall we start?
Okay.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the virtual VTSO International Convention 2021. And on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank you so much for participating and for contributing to our convention success. So as the presentation's moderators, we're delighted to see all of you here today in this presentation. And we do hope that all of you will be able to have some valuable knowledge and experience from the workshop. So if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the chat box so that we can gather them for the easy response in the 5 to 10 minute Q&A session at the end. We gladly welcome Ms. Sonita Pen in this interesting 30-minute presentation, which is entitled How to Motivate Gen Z Learners. About our presenter, Ms. Sonita is a teacher of English at Australian Centre for Education. She holds a Bachelor of Education specializing in teaching English as a foreign language and a Bachelor of Banking and Finance. During her undergraduate study, she was awarded an exchange study to Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, and she has been working in education for almost 5 years. She has led several projects and has been a trainer of many workshops. And her major interest is in the areas of educational psychology, digital education, and professional development. Please welcome her.
Thank you so much for our friendly moderators for the lovely introduction. So good morning, everyone. My name is Sonita. It's my pleasure to be here to present all of you something that I'm really passionate about, which is how to motivate Gen Z learner. So let's take a look at the overview of this presentation altogether. I'm going to split the presentation into two different parts. The first one, we're going to look at the meaning of motivation, different sources of motivation, and how we can use reinforcer and punishment to increase or decrease our students' motivation. This is called behavioral approach. Beside behavioral approach, we are going to look at another thing, which is called cognitive approaches to motivation. Here is when we look at how we can enhance our student intrinsic motivation, something inside them. We are going to look at two different components. The first one is mindset, another one is causal attribution. So without any further delay, let's get to the meaning of motivation. So in here, it is stated that motivations involve psychological processes that cause initiation, direction, and persistence of action. Simply speaking, motivation is something that causes you or it intrigues you. It makes you want to do something else that is goal-directed. That's called motivation. So there are two sources of motivation. The first main source is intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is that you do it because you like it. You enjoy doing it. This kind of motivation is usually initiated by the person themselves. But in the opposite, extrinsic motivation is when you perform that activity as a means to an end, which means that you do it because you want to avoid punishment or because you want a reward. It's not you yourself who started. It's this kind of extrinsic motivation usually initiated by other people around us. Okay, so now that you know the different sources of motivation here, let's do a quick practice, shall we? Okay, so I need your help here, everyone, all the participants. I'm gonna give two scenarios, and then you will tell me which one is intrinsic, which one is extrinsic motivation. So scenario number one, as soon as Bob reached home from school, he started to play his game so much so that he delayed doing the other task. What type of motivation does Bob shows toward playing game? So please type your answer in the chat box and send to everyone. Okay, I'm looking forward to see your answer. All right, I saw lots of intrinsic motivation. Very well done, everyone. You got it right. Let's take a look at the second scenario. So the second scenario is that after his mother threatened to punish him, he stopped playing games. And then he went off to have dinner and then do his homework. So what type of motivation does Bob show toward doing his homework? Okay, let's see here. All right, I saw from our participants, a lot of you said extrinsic motivation, and yes, you're right again, it is extrinsic motivation. So now you know the different sources of motivation, what we can learn from this. Okay, we are going to look at the implication. Studies have shown that if the student is intrinsically motivated, they do something because they like it, they are motivated from the inside, so they are likely to get a better result in studying. So what can we do as a teacher when we know this? So we can try to make our learning experience, our student learning experience more fun and enjoyable so that they are intrinsically motivated. They wanted to learn by themselves. So if intrinsic motivation is that powerful, is that useful, here comes the question. Is there any value in extrinsic motivation? Is there any use in it at all? So let's be real here. We cannot always expect our student to like everything or to be interested in everything they're doing. That's when the extrinsic motivation come into play. Okay, so by making our student understand the importance of the task that they're going to do, even when they don't really like it, they are going to be motivated to do it. So that's when we can see the use of extrinsic motivation. So just remember that it is better to be extrinsically motivated than having no motivation at all. Okay, so we know the different sources of motivation. Now we're going to look at the approach, the behavioral approach for enhancing motivation. There are two different elements that we can use to influence our student motivation. The first one is punishment, another one is reinforcer. Let's take a look at what is punishment. Punishment is something unpleasant that we give to our students so that we don't want that action to happen again. For example, your student misbehave and you deduct the score from them because you don't want them to misbehave again. That's called punishment. The opposite of punishment is here, reinforcer. In this case, I'm going to talk about positive reinforcer. So the positive reinforcer is something pleasant. It's a pleasant stimuli that you use because you want that action to happen again and again. You want the reoccurrence of that action. So simply speaking, it's just a reward that you give to your student because you want to encourage that action. So now we know that we can use punishment and reinforcer to enhance our students or also decrease their motivation. Here comes another question. Does giving reward really work? Because most of the time we believe that when we give reward, it helps increase our student motivation. But is it really so? When we talk about reward, I'm gonna split it to two different types. First one is the material reward, another one is verbal reward. Okay, material reward is when you give the things to the student. And this divided into two types, task contingent, when you give reward to the student for performing that task. So if you ask them to do something and they complete it, and you give that reward because they complete that task, it's called task contingent. Another one is non-contingent. This one is delivered independently. So you give the reward, not because you promise to give them because they do it. It's just that you give them separately. It's not related to any task that you promised them. So story time, a quick story time here. We have Mrs. John. She's a teacher and she wants to promote her student reading habit. So she conducted an experiment. She told her student to go to the library to borrow the book. And every book her student borrow, they can exchange to one gift. Okay? So one book they borrow, they can bring to her and exchange for one gift. The student really liked the gift, so they are very happy. They decided to go to the library, borrow so many books, and it seems like it's a good result because she can see that her students keep borrowing books to exchange for the gift. But one day she ran out of the gift. So she decided to stop. She told the student that from now on, the book that they borrow, they cannot use to exchange the gift from her anymore. And from that moment, her students stopped borrowing books, and they were very frustrated and angry. And that's why we say that our Mrs. John experiment backfire. Here we are going to look at the question, why did that experiment backfire? Why it did not get the result that she wanted? So studies have shown that task contingent reward decrease motivation because students believe that the teacher give the reward in a controlling manner. Teacher give the reward because she or he want them to do it, not because she or he want to grow the interest within them. And that's why it decreased the motivation. However, non-contingent reward doesn't decrease the motivation. If we look at Mrs. John experiment, we can see that the way she gives the reward to the student is task contingent, because she promised the student that if they borrow one book, they can exchange for one gift. So the student's intrinsic motivation is decreased because they borrow the book for the sake of borrowing it, not for the sake of their interest. They don't borrow because they are interested in reading. They just borrow because they just want to get the book and exchange for the gift, exchange with the gift. So the question here is, if we were Mrs. John, what should she have done? What could she have done better? So if she just encouraged her student to read without promising anything back, and then after a period of time, let's say after 1 week or 1 month, she checked with them and then give them a surprise gift for those who borrow the most book to read, then it doesn't affect the student's motivation because the student don't see it as something that make them do certain tasks. Okay, so that's it for material reward. Here come to verbal rewards. So verbal reward is something that you give, but not in terms of material. So let's take a look at 2 different examples here. The first one, you improve because you listen to me. This is called controlling verbal rewards. And this kind of verbal reward usually has negative impact on intrinsic motivation of the student. But if you look at another example, your reading improved because you put more effort in reading practice. And this kind of verbal reward is called informational verbal reward, or we can say positive feedback. This is a very good example that we can use with our students because it doesn't affect the intrinsic motivation, but also it helps show our students that what are the strategies that they use correctly to be successful. So next time when you want to praise your student, please be mindful with what you're going to say because it can have effect on our students' motivation. So now we are going to the second parts of the presentation. We're talking about cognitive approach because a moment ago, we talked about something that has to do with the extrinsic motivation. Now we're talking about cognitive approach. So let's watch a video all together. I have a video.
Researcher and Professor Carol Dweck.
Just checking, can you hear the sound of the video clearly? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Uses the term mindset to describe the way people think about ability and talent. Dweck delineates between 2 different mindsets that exist on a continuum. The first is the fixed mindset, which suggests that your abilities are innate and unchangeable. The second is a growth mindset, which views it as something you can improve through practice. In a fixed mindset, you view failure as permanent, but with a growth mindset, you see failure as a chance to learn and even pivot. Those with a fixed mindset are more likely to view critical feedback as a personal attack, while those with a growth mindset will see it as a chance to improve, where they can develop new systems. With a fixed mindset, you're more likely to choose easier tasks and put in minimal effort. After all, if talent is fixed, why bother improving? Why even try? But with a growth mindset, you're more likely to embrace challenging tasks and work hard to improve. Those with a fixed mindset are likely to give up when they face an obstacle, Meanwhile, those with a growth mindset will view obstacles as a chance to experiment and solve problems. In a fixed mindset, the focus is on measurable accomplishments. But with a growth mindset, the focus is more on a journey of continual improvement. With a fixed mindset, you're less likely to take creative risks. But with a growth mindset, creative risks are simply a way to innovate and improve. Ultimately, your mindset influences everything from creative risk-taking to how you view feedback to whether or not you finish difficult tasks. And in the end, it's one of the greatest factors in determining whether or not you grow and improve in your abilities.
Okay. All right. So a moment ago, you watched a video about fixed versus growth mindsets. So after watching this video, which one do you think is best for our student? Please share your thought in the chat box. I'm looking forward to see. Okay, so I've seen a lot of our participants share the thought that growth mindset is good, and definitely you're right. It is best for us to try to introduce growth mindset and grow this kind of mindset in our student, because it's very beneficial. It allows them to try new things. It allows them to see challenges as learning opportunity. So you know the fixed and the growth mindset. Let's do a quick practice. Here's the picture. Let's take a look at the picture. So student A say, Benny, why you are taking so long to complete your composition? And then Benny said, I know that I'm not good at writing, but if I practice hard and try to improve my writing, using the teacher's feedback, I think I will become a good writer. So question, does Benny exhibit a fixed or growth mindset? Okay, come on in, let's share your opinion. All right, and you're right again, that Benny exhibit growth mindset. Thank you so much for our participant. The next, this is the last practice, oops. So look at the picture here. Student A, the girl say, this seems to be too difficult for us. We'll never be able to solve the problem. Tim, let's just give up and not waste our time on this. And then Tim said, the boy said, I remember our teacher telling us to consider different aspects of the problem and try to tackle them one at a time. Perhaps we should try this. Who exhibit growth mindset? Who has growth mindset? Is it the girl or is it the boy? Wow, I'm very happy. All of our participants give the correct answer. The boy, yes. Well done, everyone. Thank you so much for participating. And you're right, the answer is the boy. So let's take a look at the causal attribution. Causal attribution are the reason that we give to explain the action or the outcome. Okay, so causal attribution and answer the question why. Why did we do that certain thing and why did we receive certain result? That's causal attribution. Okay, there are three different types of causal attribution. The first one is internal versus external. If you have internal attribution, you tend to attribute your success to something within you. So for example, you see success that it's because you try to work hard, but if you have external attribution, you see success is something factor outside you. You think that you are successful because you're lucky. The second dimension of attribution is controllable versus uncontrollable. If you are controllable, you think that you can influence your success, you can control your success. You think that you're successful because you use the right strategy. But if you are uncontrollable, you think that you are successful because you're lucky, or if you fail it because that the task is very difficult, it's too difficult for you. The third dimension is stable versus unstable factor. For example, if you have stable attribution, you think that the cause of success is something that is stable. Example, you have good support from your family. But if you have unstable factor, it's mean that you think that the success is because you're not lucky or the task is too difficult for you. So what can we learn from knowing this? Studies have shown that if students have internal and control attribution, they usually put more effort, they work harder to achieve that result. And even if they fail, they will try harder in the next time. But if they believe that their success is something external because of their luck, because of the test is easy, they won't be motivated and they would not study very hard. So how can we use causal attribution to increase the motivation? As a teacher, our attitude toward our student performance may influence their way of thinking and may influence their motivation, because the way we react to our student performance can affect how they see themselves, whether they think that they are capable enough to do that thing or not. So I suggest we should be careful with the way we praise our student, and we should praise our student in a way that promotes or encourage growth mindset by linking their success to effort. For example, instead of saying you did well because you're lucky, and oh, this one is very common. You say you did well because you are so smart. And when we say that the student is smart, they think that it is something that they're born with, their innate behavior, innate talent. So when we say that, oh, you're so smart, it might affect other students who might not be so smart, and they think that, oh, I can't do anything about this because I'm not born smart. So it is a fixed mindset. So instead of saying that, you can say that you did well because you try very hard, and you did well because you used the right strategy. So that's it for my presentation. Here's the reference that I look at and took the information from. So thank you for your attention, especially our participant for your active participation in the chat box, and also our moderator for their facilitation. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sonita, for your great presentation. So we are happy to receive any questions that you may have for our presenter. Okay, someone asked if you can leave your slides presentation. Can you share your presentation slides with our participants?
Of course, I can. How about so you can send me your email so I can drop you your email, or is there any way that you prefer to get the presentation slide?
Can I have a picture, Sonita?
Yes, of course.
So, you could choose only one between enhancing the student's intrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Which one would you choose?
Excuse me, I could not hear you clearly.
So if you could choose only one between enhancing the student intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, which one would you choose?
Thank you so much for the question. I think I would prefer choosing to enhance the intrinsic motivation, although it's more difficult to achieve it. But this one study have shown that if students are intrinsically motivated, they are motivated told to do something that they really like, the effect will last longer. The result will be better and they will stay motivated for a longer period of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more question. During lessons, I have a lot of group work. However, some partners do not want to involve the discussion. They don't want to be involved in the discussion. They just turn off the camera and mic. How can I incentivize them to engage in the workshop group?
Thank you for the question.
The group work.
The group work.
Yeah, in the group work.
Oh, it seems like you're a student. So if your partner doesn't want to turn on the camera, here it has something to do with COVID that we need to be more understanding, and maybe because their camera is not working or the internet is not good enough, we cannot take out this reason. But if that's not the case, then you might ask them, what is the reason? Communicating is a very good solution if you want to solve this kind of problem. If they turn off the camera, you can just talk to them directly, like, what are the problems? How can I help you? If they still unmute, they don't want to talk to you, you can type in the chat box and send them directly the message. And sometimes some people, they are just shy, so they don't want to turn on the camera. So we can probably find another way to work with them. Probably you can compromise saying that it's okay, let's just discuss this project in a group, but we're going to use the chat box instead to chat. You don't need to turn on the camera. If you're shy, if you don't want to talk, it's fine. We're going to write down and communicate through writing. And that's how we can find different ways to work with each other. And I hope that this answers your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. Do different ages require different motivations?
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, they are different age group, they require different techniques. The sources of motivation is still the same. It's still two different sources, intrinsic and extrinsic, but we need to use different strategy to deal with different age group of students. Let's say we have younger group of students. So sometimes giving some sort of surprise reward that is non-contingent, you just give them some sticker because they did well, it might make them very happy. Or you just give them some point in the class. But larger or older age group of students might not be attracted to do this kind of reward and incentive. So you need to find a different way to deal with them. And I noticed that most of the time, the older age group of people, they prefer verbal rewards such as positive feedback or praise. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have time for the last question from Ms. Thompson. Could you share some tips, techniques used to get student grow mindset?
Okay, thank you. Normally, when I discover that the student has fixed mindset to certain thing, first thing you need to make them understand and accept the fact that it's okay to make mistake and it's okay to fail in the class. Because some students, when they have fixed mindset, they don't want to make mistake. They don't want to do that stuff because they feel like it's a failure. I don't want to speak. When they ask them to practice speaking, they say, oh, no, I can't because I can't talk. So you need to explain them, make them understand that it's okay to fail, and learning takes time to grow. So, and when they agree to practice with you, until a certain point of time, they have some improvement, you should take that point of improvement to show them. You should let them know that, hey, you see, you have improved from here to here. So now you can actually work on anything that you want to work on, even though you're not born with that talent. I hope it helps.
Okay, thank you. So because of the limited time, we cannot include all of the questions in the Q&A session. So if you have any other questions, you can email our presenter directly.
So I'm gonna drop my email in the chat box, everyone. And shall we
Yes.
have a quick photo session together?
I think we should. Why not?
Okay.
Sure, we will take some photos.
So
Can you do
thank
that,
you our
Huang?
presentation. And so yeah, I would like to invite all of you to turn on the camera if you don't mind. If you don't want, it's totally fine. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and smile. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your, oops.
Thank you,
Okay, what happened?
Sonita, for the great presentation. I'm so into presentation, and I do hope our participants also enjoy and learn something from the talk too. Right. So it's so like we have to close our session here. So thank you again, Sunita. See you and goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye, everyone.